This is the Fox 9 Morning News.
First, though, we're going to check in live this morning with M.A. Roscoe. M.A.
Hey, good morning, guys. I like to call it tying on an upscale feed bag. It's the 18th annual Food and Wine Experience with more than 200 vendors, one of which is Crave. We're live at Crave at Galleria, and we're going to give you a preview coming up.
Minnesota Monthly Food and Wine Experience returns to Target Field this Saturday and Sunday.
No baseball, but you will experience 350 wines, 75 specialty beers, and food from some of the best restaurants in the Twin Cities. And that's where we catch up with M.A. Roscoe. She's at Crave Restaurant preparing her stomach for the massive consumathon.
A gentle stretching right now
Yes.
is going to go a long way to helping you survive the 18th annual Food and Wine Experience. We're going to give you a little sampling of what you might expect, and I'm joined by Chef Jim Kindberg of Crave. And you've got a couple of your restaurants represented here. Tell us what you've prepared and what people can expect at the Food and Wine Experience.
Sure. We've got all three restaurants that'll be at the show. So first we'll be featuring food from Crave. This is a dish off our appetizer menu. It's a gorgonzola cheese fondue. It can be served with steak or grilled chicken. It's got some vegetables, some fruit, our Crave flatbread with that. And for the show we're doing just a little sample of that dish that's representative from the menu. Mm-hmm. And then we're moving on to Urban. So on Urban we have a chicken pot pie that's been on the menu since day one.
Oh, you guys, and it smelled so good, so comforting this cold, slushy, icy morning.
For breakfast too. Yeah. So anyways, we're doing a smaller version of that as well. And then moving on to Sopranos. We have Sopranos third. And we have a little pinwheel of Scottish salmon. There's an avocado, some preserved lemon vinaigrette, and a little Maldon sea salt. So then we do a little skewer for sampling at the show for that one as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for getting up early and joining us. Now, to talk about wine a little bit, because it is food and wine, we have Dara Moskowitz-Grumdahl of Minnesota Monthly. And this was a little shocking to me as a beer consumer, as somebody who consumes roughly 20% of the craft beer in Minnesota. I was a little shocked to learn about our love affair with wine.
Americans are happier and happier about wine sort of every year that's passed. It a couple years ago actually surpassed beer as Americans' favorite beverage. Why? Because it's a really great thing to drink sort of day to day. It complements all kinds of foods and it has all the health benefits. A serving of red wine is essentially a serving of vegetables. There's so many.
Dara, that's all we needed to hear.
I hold by that. Just like a glass of grape juice is full of
so that
good
means in
things
the schools of America we can expect to see the serving of vegetables.
That's
this
why.
and ketchup to
That's
check off
why
too.
it's happening. I'm telling you, it is good for heart health. It is preventative of cancer, lowered blood pressure. It's full of resveratrol, a special antioxidant that helps people, and it's yummy. I mean, that's why Europeans have been drinking wine with their food for millions of years, and so Gen Y, all the millennials, they drink wine pretty much every day. Now the boomers are drinking wine every day. We are the #1 wine consumer in the whole country now. I mean, the whole world, more than France.
I find that really eye-opening. So tell me about this Pinot. You've selected a Pinot to kind of go with these dishes, and it seems like a real utility player.
It is. Pinot Noir is sort of the secret pick of the best wine that can pair with everything. We picked a Villa Maria from New Zealand. That will be at the show this weekend. And it's just sort of a light, it's not a really dark, oaky, concentrated wine. It's a light, delicious, slightly fruity, but
wine,
a little depth to it. And Pinot Noir is classically the wine that goes with fish, the wine that goes with meat, the wine that goes with cheese. And so if you want, that's the kind of tip that you can pick up at the Food and Wine Show, is how to make wine a part of your everyday life. Taste a bunch of Pinot Noirs this weekend, and you may find, this is what I want with my Cheerios.
Tough assignment, but okay. And you've also written a book, Drink This?
Drink This, Wine Made Simple. Yeah, that's my book.
That's why she knows about these things. So thank you for joining us. When we come back, we are going to get with a winemaker from Washington State. That's the featured wine area.
They have a big pavilion. It's really exciting. You can go through and taste all kinds of different things from Washington State, and you will be a Washington State wine expert at the end of this day. Amazing values and great flavors.
All right. Thanks so much. When we come back, wine from Washington. Stick around.
Good stuff. Good stuff as a native of that state, I'll tell you. Good prices, too.
So many wineries, vineyards coming out of Washington State.
Yeah.
What a surprise, huh?
Yeah.
With M.A. Roscoe, who's doing some sampling this morning.
I wonder if that young man knows any Eric Burden on the piano. when he's tickling them ivories. Not too much wine being spilled, a lot of it being sampled this weekend at the 18th Annual Food and Wine Experience. It's happening at Target Field. And when we come back, we're going to tell you why Washington State wines are on everybody's best taste and best value list. That story's coming up.
Or is this just a dream?
Right now, we're going to lighten things up a little bit and talk about food. The Minnesota Monthly Food and Wine Experience returns to Target Field. That'll be this weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Of course, no baseball, but you will experience 350 wines, 75 specialty beers, and food from some of the best restaurants right here in the Twin Cities. M.A. Roscoe is at one of them at Crave Restaurant, preparing her stomach for this great event and her palate as well. Good morning, M.A.
That's right. So much wine, so little time. You know, we queued up a little UB40 red wine for good reason, because Saturday is all sold out. Still tickets for Sunday's Food and Wine Experience. But Saturday night, Dara Moskowitz, Grumdahl, there is an event there are still tickets for.
The Grand Red Tasting. It's really the high roller event. It's down in the Champions Club. Tickets are $95. You get all the $100 wines, the really fancy stuff, and then you go around from station to station and get little things to eat. So you get great cheeses and little beef tenderloin bites. It's very fancy and fun.
Oh, yum. Okay, so tickets still available for
Yes.
that. Now, the featured wineries are from Washington State this year, and a lot of people who have never traveled to that area of the country think apples, Washington State apples, and yes, that is true. Applets and Cotlets, I believe, also from up there. I'm joined by Chad Johnson. He's the owner and winemaker of Boomtown and Dusted Valley. So you're representing two of the roughly 25 Washington State wineries that will be at Food and Wine Experience. Yep. Show us what you've brought, and is this indicative of the range of wines that are made? You happen to be mostly in the Walla Walla Valley. So are these indicative of the wines that you have there?
Somewhat so. The Dusted Valley for sure is a state-driven Walla Walla wine. And then these are actually from a couple AVAs that are a little north of that on the Wahluke Slope. And we'll have about 5 Boomtown wines that we'll have with us this weekend.
Now, one of them, and you can go ahead and pour it, you have a Pinot Gris, not a Pinot Grigio, which is what we typically think of ordering. Just give it right to the drink, this lady. Why don't you? So what is the difference between Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio?
Absolutely nothing. Okay. They are the same grape, so it's a little hard for the consumer to decipher sometimes. But if you're drinking a Pinot Gris, it's actually the same grape as Pinot Grigio. In Italy, they call it Pinot Grigio. And in Washington State, we can call it Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio, but we choose to call it Pinot Gris.
Okay, so that clears up a little bit of the confusion. But really, it's really about what happens on your palate, not so much what it says on the bottle, Dara. And Washington State wines are seen as a very good value. Why is that?
Mostly because of that apple thing you were talking about. A lot of people just don't know. They hear Washington and they think it's the White House, or it's Seattle and it's raining all the time. They don't think about wine. But in fact, the great thing about the great thing about Washington State wines is that they have those really long days. You think about Alaska and sort of, the land of the midnight sun. Mm-hmm. Well, Washington is sort of the land of the 10 o'clock at night sun. So the long daytime makes the phenolics, the things in the grape skins that give the flavors and fragrances, they have time to develop. But because it's not hot, it doesn't get that sweet raisiny thing. You think cheap wine, sweet wine, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't that. So you get really complex flavors, but they're not sweet. And so that's why Washington State wines are so good, and they're undervalued because nobody understands them. So, and if you come to the Food and Wine Experience, you get to go through this pavilion and taste all Washington State wines, and you'll really be an expert at the end of the day.
So the grapes get to hang on that vine and get complex without getting too sugary, and that produces a really great wine that not a lot of people know about, and that produces the good value.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for clearing that up and for joining us, Chad Johnson of Dusted Valley and Boomtown Wineries. And when we come back, we're talking cake czars, because we love us some cake, we love us some sweets at the Food and Wine Experience as well. So stick around for that. That's coming up at 8:40. Back to you.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget the sweets.
Yeah, need that. Thank you, M.A.
Great food, great wine. You're going to find them both at Target Field this weekend. M.A. Roscoe has a preview of the Food and Wine Experience. M.A.
If it gets any better than this, I really could not picture it, because we've got craft beers, local craft beers, food from restaurants like Crave, wines from Washington State, and, well, what is this exactly? You're going to have to stick around and find that out. We're talking food and wine experience coming up.
Well, food and wine are replacing baseball at Target Field this weekend.
Local restaurants are serving up their best dishes and drinks at the Minnesota Monthly Food and Wine Experience. M.A. Roscoe, she's ready for the experience. She's live in Edina this morning. M.A.
Oh, I'm experienced when
Hello.
it comes to the food and wine experience. Yeah, howdy. Have you ever noticed the proliferation? Just it's a little Jimi Hendrix thing, sorry. Have you ever noticed the proliferation of cupcake wars and dessert shows and reality television?
Sure.
I mean, you just cannot change a channel without seeing it. Well, this woman, Marie Porter, could go toe-to-toe or fondant to fondant with any of them because, you guys, I don't know if you saw the tease. You're thinking, that's a lovely sushi boat. Well, it is, but it's a cake. It's all
No way.
edible. Way, Alex. And Marie Porter took you 2 days to make this, and it is just down to every last detail.
Man.
It's just impeccable. How did you do it?
Well, I made some fondant, and
Which is what?
mine is marshmallows and powdered sugar. I find if I make it myself, it tastes much better than store-made, and it's easier to work with and a lot more easy to dye. So I custom tinted a bunch of colors and just rolled it out. Everything's handmade. The only tools I used were a rolling pin and a knife.
So you won, and Marie Porter has already been crowned Czar of Cakes for the 2012 Food and Wine Experience. Voting happened online, and most of it came from the public, but there were some, expert judges as well. So your cake will be shown during the Food and Wine Experience. Do you plan to eat it afterwards? Or did you have to make it so far in advance that it's a little bit...
It was made far enough in advance that, yeah.
So is this the same technique that you use for wedding cakes and birthday, special event cakes?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing, but in terms of just basic fondant and the making it and the dyeing and everything, yes. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You're Czar of Cakes, Marie Porter of Celebration Generation. You do a lot of teaching right now, right? But you still make cakes.
Mostly writing. Well, I only make cakes when I'm teaching now. But yeah, I mostly just do writing cookbooks and teaching at this point.
Well, congratulations on your win, Marie Porter. I'm chatting now with Dara Moskowitz-Grumdahl, and tickets are sold out for the Food and Wine Experience on Saturday. Still available Sunday, but still available Saturday night as well.
Yeah, for the Grand Red tasting. That's the big high roller event. So you get to go into the Twin Stadium, down to the Champions Club. That's where the billionaires and the players hang out. And then all the high rolling wines are there. So $100 wines, the big reds. That's why we call it the Grand Red tasting. And you walk around. It's like a little moving dinner. You have a little plate. You get a little steak. You get a little shrimp concoction.
So you exercise in between bites.
Oh, yes. It's all about the exercise. It's so much fun. It's just sort of like, what if I was the richest person in the world and I could have every finest thing, and you just kind of go around and sample and sample and sample, and so much fun, and then you take a taxi home.
Yes, good thinking, yes. When we come back, Dara's going to talk to us about the fact that we've been marveling at the fact that every 10 days a new craft brewer emerges in Minnesota. That's a trend that I'm on board for.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of the newest entries and the fact that you can experience them also at the Food and Wine Experience when we come back at 9:30.
That's where you use your investigative reporting skills to make sure that that product is, in fact, suitable for public consumption.
I smell a Peabody.
That's
I
right.
smell a
Yes.
Peabody, you guys.
Yes,
And she's always working on her taste buds and cleansing them in between.
Of course.
First, MA is live in Edina. Good morning, MA. Oh, look at that spread.
Just a little snack, just a light morning snack to help you through the morning. That is all. The Food and Wine Experience is going on this weekend. Let's just say you don't like wine. Is there a reason for you to go to this show? The answer is yes. Why? There are 75 craft beers represented. We're going to talk about those. That's good drinking, my friends. That story's coming up.
Well, the Minnesota Monthly Food and Wine Experience returns to Target Field this weekend.
Yeah, there's no baseball, but you can experience 350 wines, 75 specialty beers, and food from some of the best restaurants around the Twin Cities.
M.A. Roscoe is live at Crave in Edina, preparing her stomach for a massive consumption-a-thon. Consume-a-thon.
I like to call the food and wine experience like tying on an upscale feed bag.
Yes.
You just plow your way through. You know, we were saying in the intro, no baseball, but when baseball does return to Target Field, the boys at Fulton Brewing will be brewing up some brew, huh, Dara Moskowitz? And it might be ready for by the pint consumption by then?
Yeah, they should have Minneapolis's first tap room by the time the first pitch is thrown.
Yay!
Yeah, fingers crossed. So yeah, of course the big story in Minnesota this year has been beer, 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 beer. Every couple days a new brewery opens.
I like to think that I've been in front on that story, Dara. I'm kind of your beer chocolate correspondent, and it's true. I mean, every time you turn around, in fact, last night, was out to eat at Muddy Waters Cafe. I saw Steel Toe Brewing, and I had never heard of this. It's at a St. Louis park. So every 10 days, it seems like a new craft brewery is coming online.
And how can you taste them all without driving in circles all the time? The answer is you can go to the Twin Cities Food and Wine Show, where the Craft Brew Guild has a whole special pavilion. So many great beers are going to be there.
Okay, so there'll be about 75 total. Not all of them local craft beers, but most of them.
Yeah, almost all of them. And so
this is a new one. What's Lucid Air?
That's a very light, really very drinkable beer out of Minnetonka. So Lucid Brewing, I love their labels. I love that brewery. It's really fun. And then Brow Brothers, they were sort of a little bit older. They're a fantastic brewery from Lucan, Minnesota, kind of up near St. Cloud.
And help me out with the name of this one.
Van Craigie. It's a Scottish smoked peat malt. If you like whiskey, you know, that really peaty, smoky, malty thing, you will just love this beer. It is a beer for whiskey lovers.
Ooh.
Shell's My Fest. Do you know what that means? That means May is coming.
It's a spring beer, yes.
Yes, so spring is coming. That's exciting.
Some people enjoy the changing of the seasons because the leaves change. I enjoy the changing of the seasons for the changing of the beers. That's just me.
I especially like the changing of seasons where it gets warmer and warmer. I don't like the other change so much. And then, of course, Summit, you know, somewhat responsible for the entire craft brew revolution that has been happening in the Twin Cities the last couple years.
Been around for 25 years.
How about that red ale? That is a great food pairing beer. That goes so well with everything from pasta with red sauce to burgers.
Dara, we have about 30 seconds left. What do you attribute to what? Syntax. To what do you attribute this explosion in craft beers?
I think people are spending their money closer to home. They're wanting the really good experience. They're wanting to have an everyday luxury. And so that's why.
Yeah. It's a luxury just about everybody can afford. So thank you so much for joining us all morning long. Dara Moskowitz from Minnesota Monthly, also the author of Drink This. It's not about the beer, it's about the wine. She shares her knowledge, really easy to read, easy to understand language. So check that out. And Saturday is sold out, you guys, for Food and Wine Experience. Still tickets for Saturday night's Grand Red tasting and for Sunday. So check that out.
Okay. All right. That's some studying I can wrap my head around.
Totally.